Rebuilding a Rustproof Land Rover, Part 17. A look at the progress in the time that I've owned this 1971 Land Rover for the second time. There is still some way to go, but it is steadily improving. I show the progress with the paintwork, and I bought an injector tester because I want to find out how these things work, starting with some I bought via eBay. The truth of the matter is, there are some problems with the engine. When I first got the Land Rover for the second time, it didn't start well and it didn't run well. But with a couple of doses of injector cleaner emptied into the fuel tank, which contains the diesel, the running was considerably improved. In the first part of this video though, I'm going to show the progress of the paintwork. I followed the same sequence on all the paintwork, apart from the doors. They're too far gone and I'm going to replace those. First of all, I rubbed down the damaged bodywork with an orbital sander and standard orbital sander pads, starting with a very coarse grit because the paintwork on the front wings was really badly damaged, and it was quite a while before I actually started painting. I just removed the damaged paintwork. As I've just mentioned, the doors are in a bit of a state. The steel frame's extremely rusty, worse on one side than the other, so I'm going to dispense with these and buy a brand new pair. In this clip you can see how the aluminium is crumbling away where it meets the steel. The final paintwork job will be on the front, but I can't do anything about this yet, because to paint the front I have to remove the grills and the lights and the bumper. And I have to drive the Land Rover from here to Rossmore Garage because there's some more mechanical work required, and I don't think it's very legal with all the lights on the front missing. Here's a flashback to the 10th of February 2025 when I picked up the Land Rover from the house of my late friend Ken Rowley. And it definitely wasn't legal in this condition. It was undrivable. I removed the log burner that Ken had put between the seats and wondered where the dashboard had gone. Then it occurred to me the dashboard had been melted by the log burner and therefore thrown away because most of it is vinyl and plastic, and the heat from the log burner would have damaged that irreparably. It took me some time to figure out why the front end of the Land Rover particularly was in such bad condition. Suddenly I realised why. My late friend Ken was into things called rat rods. He built a British motorcycle with a bent coal scuttle for the fairing, that sort of thing. And the mudguards were just a welded together framework having no function as mudguards in any way. The engine compartment was a disgrace. Something tells me it must have been parked quite close to a sycamore tree. When I look inside the engine bay now, it's completely different, with a new high-quality, high-capacity battery and a repainted air filter. Oh yes, and a lot of effort, including pressure washing the area about 4 times and brushing away all the detritus. Moving to the front of the Land Rover, and this definitely wasn't looking good. Even with the lights in this condition, most of them did actually work. Inside the Land Rover, Ken had removed the nice little steering wheel I put in it and put this gigantic old Rover steering wheel in it. I've reversed the process and put another nice little steering wheel in it. I fitted a replacement upper dashboard and the plastic thing in the middle, and I even fitted a holder for my mobile phone. Here's a story so far regarding the paintwork. The original idea was to paint the Land Rover, as I did before, using satin finish paint, but it dried patchy, so instead I've gone over to gloss paint and I think it looks okay. I was going to paint it using my spray gun, but then I thought better of it because I remember when I painted it years ago, both neighbours at each side complained about the smell. Besides, I paint steam engines either with a brush or with a rattle can, so I decided to paint this Land Rover using rattle cans, and as you can see, the finish is quite good. Because this is a 1971 Land Rover, I didn't want it to look new, so I've left some blemishes in the paint on purpose, and of course the aluminium panels, after all these years, are a little bit out of shape. As Ken actually sandblasted the paint off the front of the Land Rover, including the glass fibre bonnet, removing the gel coat in the process, it's taken some time to replace the gel coat. I've already used 4 cans of 2K high build primer, And what you're looking at the moment is the second coat of the satin paint. Once I've painted and rubbed this down, I will eventually give it the top coats, which will be gloss. This was when I first started. I really had to flatten off the mess which was the glass fibre bonnet. This was right at the beginning after the first coat of 2K high build primer. Apart from the bonnet, which has obviously been sandblasted, here's another example of the proof. This is one of the windscreen supports and it is not corroded. What you're seeing is damage from the sandblasting process. Ken didn't want to take this back to bare metal. What he wanted to do was make the paintwork look very scruffy, and indeed he succeeded in doing that. Now, after 2 coats of Land Rover deep bronze green satin paint, the bonnet now looks like this. A bit of an improvement, I think. A few more coats and more rubbing down will be required before I apply the top coat. Here is a plastic tub containing some injectors and also some glow plugs for a Land Rover 2.25 diesel engine. I don't know whether they work or not. Somehow I doubt it. I bought the lot for about £50 via eBay. Here you can see that in the engine compartment fitted to the engine are already 4 injectors just like these. I could just buy a brand new set of injectors, but that's not the point. I like to know how things work. So I have the injectors, and I've also bought an injector tester. Here it is. I'd been watching a few YouTube videos about how to test injectors, and most of the people were using a pump like this. And it's quite well made. I can't use it like this though. I need to bolt it to the bench, and I won't bolt it to my kitchen table. I'll take it up to the workshop and bolt it to the workbench in there. These pressure fittings are very well made. I've mounted one of the injectors in place to show the general arrangement. This is a very high pressure pump. It will actually pump, according to the gauge, up to 8,000 psi, slightly more than I need. I don't intend to use this very often, to be honest, but I had to have a go with one. On the videos that I watched, the blow-off point at which the injector squirted some diesel was just under 2,000 pounds per square inch, a bit more pressure than I'm used to working with, but I'm looking forward to using it. That's it for this episode. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.